Have you ever met someone so entitled? They thought your private property belonged to them? What would you do if your family's land was suddenly claimed by a power-hungry HOA president? And what happens when that same person calls the cops on you for protecting what's legally yours? Stick around, because this isn't just a story about trespassing. It's about boundaries, on paper, on land, and in life, and how one woman found out the hard way that not everything belongs to the HOA. You know that feeling when you're watching a peaceful sunset over your own private lake, and then entitlement walks up in designer flip-flops and ruins everything? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. I own a secluded ranch with a spring-fed lake that's been in my family for generations. It's not part of any HOA, but unfortunately, the road leading to it snakes past a suburban development that is ruled by an HOA president who thinks she's a small-town dictator. So when I denied her guests access to my lake, guests who were literally tailgating in SUVs, blasting music, and letting their kids tear up the shoreline, she did what any reasonable adult would do. She called the cops. On me. You won't believe what happened when they showed up. But before we get there, let me rewind a bit. Because this story, it doesn't start with the cops. It starts with a woman named Linda, a homeowners association president with a clipboard, a superiority complex, and the audacity of a Bond villain. What she didn't know was, I had cameras, a lawyer, and the patience of a monk with a grudge. And when she pushed too far, I pushed back harder. This is the story of how a self-declared Queen of Suburbia tried to claim my family's land, and how she ended up exposed, humiliated, and very, very sorry. My lake ranch sits about a mile past a new suburban development, McMansions with perfectly trimmed hedges, neighborhood potlucks, and an HOA that enforces lawn gnome regulations with Gestapo-level enthusiasm. The road leading to my property is public, but I maintain the last quarter mile myself. My grandfather even paved it before the HOA was ever formed. Linda, the HOA president, moved in about a year ago. She introduced herself with a plate of cookies and a rulebook. You'll want to keep up appearances, she'd chirped. I smiled, thanked her for the cookies, and gently reminded her that my land wasn't under her jurisdiction. She didn't like that. Things stayed polite for a while, until one Saturday, I caught a group of strangers barbecuing beside my lake. Kids were tossing soda cans in the water. I asked them who invited them. Linda said we could come down here, one of them said. So I drove up to her home the next day, calm as ever. Me. Linda, your guests were trespassing on my property yesterday. Her. Oh, that's just silly. We all share this space, don't we? Me. No, we don't. Her eyes narrowed. That's when the tension truly began to thicken. A few days later, I found HOA signs planted near the trail to the lake. HOA approved guests only. I pulled them up and tossed them in the back of my truck. The next week, she upped the game. Flyers in mailboxes read, "Enjoy the community lake this summer," with my lake in the background. She'd even used a drone shot, probably pulled from one of my old real estate listings. I called her out again. Me. Linda, this has to stop. One more incident and I'll involve legal. Her. Oh, please. Don't be so dramatic. You can't gatekeep nature. I started locking the gate. Put up new signs. Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. But Linda was just warming up. Because the next time I denied entry to one of her friends, she didn't argue. She called the cops, and that was just the beginning. So there I was, standing at the gate to my own land, facing two sheriff's deputies, called in by Linda, who was flailing her arms like she'd just caught me stealing state secrets. "This man is threatening my guests," she screeched. I calmly handed the deputies a folder. Inside, a copy of my deed, property lines, photos of the lake, and screenshots of her HOA newsletter falsely advertising it as community space. The deputies looked it over, nodded, and said the words that should have ended it. "Ma'am, this land isn't part of the HOA. You have no authority here." You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? Wrong. Linda doubled down. The following week, one of her lake days turned into a full-on trespassing party. They dragged in coolers, lawn chairs, even a Bluetooth speaker the size of a toddler. When I arrived, politely asking them to leave, one of them had the nerve to say, "Linda said you're just a bitter old guy trying to gatekeep nature." I was 37. From that day on, it became a cold war. Here's just a taste of what she did. Filed bogus complaints. I got multiple visits from county inspectors after anonymous, tips about illegal septic systems, unlicensed docks, and even hazardous animal enclosures. Spoiler, the hazard was a 14-year-old, lab named Duke. Sabotaged my gate, twice. The lock was cut. I installed a security camera. She claimed it was invasive and demanded it be removed. It was on my land. Online smear campaign. Someone, guess who, started a Facebook group titled, "Free the Lake." They posted manipulated images of my property. with fake overlays claiming it was public land seized during the 1950s. Bonus points for using Comic Sans. At this point, it was past absurd. One evening, I found Duke limping. Someone had tossed glass into the trail. That's when the patience snapped. It was time to fight back. Step 1. Documentation. I hired a licensed drone operator to record aerial views of my land and boundaries. I had thermal scans, high-res maps, and timestamps. Step 2. Lawyer up. My family attorney drafted a cease and desist letter with attachments. Trespassing footage, evidence of fraud, HOA flyers. We gave the board 10 days to respond or face a civil suit. Step 3. Symbolic power move. I installed new signs, private lake, not affiliated with the HOA trespassers, will be prosecuted. Then I showed up at the next HOA community meeting. As a public observer, I played a 5-minute presentation, drone footage, photos, even audio of Linda telling a guest the lake was for everyone. Linda stormed in midway through, yelling I was staging a smear campaign. The board was horrified. Next day, Linda suspended pending investigation. HOA issued a formal apology. The Facebook group disappeared. My gate was left alone. I hosted a BBQ for the respectful neighbors. And Linda? She drove by in her golf cart. I waved. She didn't wave back. Turns out Linda used HOA funds for flyers, drone footage, and beautification efforts on my land. Misuse $2,700. She was removed officially. The board sued for reimbursement. Small claims court day. I showed up, sat in the back, watched her squirm. She lost. Neighbors apologized. One brought jam. Duke healed. Peace returned. One teenager even came back to apologize for the protest. I let him fish off the dock. I added one last sign. Private property. HOA presidents. Will be towed. It got laughs. Linda disappeared from public view. I got my peace. It's funny how quickly chaos fades when you stop feeding it. Boundaries matter. On maps, in life. And when people cross them, sometimes you have to push back, smartly. Here's my takeaway. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't shouting back. It's proving, publicly and undeniably, that you were right all along. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have kept your cool? Or gone full vigilante? Comment below. And if you made it this far, drop justice served in the comments. Because peace isn't given. Sometimes you have to earn it, one HOA at a time.